Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
Hey, how is it going, everybody? I just wanted to introduce you guys to this brand new podcast that I am kicking off. Got an awesome guest with me today, Adam Meekhof, who's one of the senior recruiters over at IQ Talent Partners. What this podcast is going to focus on is just like the successful things that we're doing in our roles to either win work, find the right people for our customers, make the placements, new marketing ideas. The world is constantly changing, as we all know, from 2020 going into 2021, and it's just trying to keep up with everything. So definitely thank you, Adam, for joining me today. And Adam, you're over at IQ Talent Partners. Can you tell me a little bit real quick about what you're doing over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So IQ Talent Partners is probably closer to what I would say the RPO model of recruiting. Basically, they go out, we get clients that have an exclusive recruiting project they want us to work on. So not your traditional contingency recruiter, but not a corporate recruiter. We kind of fall in that in-between part. So so I've been doing that for 2 years now. I've been fortunate to work on quite a few clients.
And I know recently you moved over to a new one. You were telling me earlier.
Yeah, I did. I always tell people I get to work on I say it's the craziest, coolest thing I've ever been able to say in my life. I'm a recruiting consultant right now for a company called Meekof. And what they've actually done is they have found a way to grow a fungus, send it through a process, and on the back end of that process, out comes leather. I don't even know what else to say other than that because I am not a scientist. I always joke and say a lot smarter people than I have created this product.
And, I think I saw in there that recently has raised a Series B. Like it's looking to kind of like take over the fashion industry. So it seems like a really fast moving organization that you're supporting right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started a project. Well, I was brought on the project on August 24th, and their goal was to go from 50 employees on August 24th to 100 by the end of the year. Because right. Every recruiter that's watching this, just their eyes perked up like, wait a second, what did they just say? And they're very fortunate. They just closed our Series B funding, raised $45 million in the biotech space during a pandemic, which is extremely impressive. And then we get to attach our name to some really cool investors, actually, that they like us to talk about. Natalie Portman and John Legend are two of their largest investors. So it's really, I get to say all those cool names now too.
That's awesome. So coming up to the end of the year, and tell me about this crazy, trying to get those many people in the door in a short window in this weird world.
So all of the yes to that, it's a weird time, but we were very fortunate. They had brought in, when they brought us in, it was someone that had worked with us in the past at a different client, and they brought in as their head of HR, and she was fantastic about making sure that utilizing us to set up a very scalable, repeatable process for all of our interviews, to where us as our recruiting team said, this is what we're going to accomplish. This is how we're going to do it. And hiring managers saying, okay, if you can accomplish that, we're going to follow back up with these steps, and we will actually do it. It was the greatest thing a recruiter has ever said. I will get you feedback in 24 hours. And I actually got feedback in 24 hours. Right?
Every recruiter's like, please.
So we, as we've recruited, we actually recruited so fast, they started to realize that onboarding, they wanted to make sure it was also a very repeatable, scalable process. So we're not going to reach 100 by the end of the year, but that's almost by design now, because we realize that we've hired so many strategic roles and so many other roles. Now they can look at their organization strategically and say, where can we put these other neat roles in, these other crucial roles? Okay. And we can actually slow down the hiring to be more strategic as opposed to this huge growth spurt that we thought we needed. So while we're not going to reach 50 people in 4 months, I'm okay with that, actually, because we've actually done, by the end of the year, I think we're going to be close to 85 people. So we're going to do 35 in 4 months. I'm extremely impressed with it, to be honest.
What kind of roles are those?
So they're anything from marketing to quality technicians, your quality people, all the way up to, we are in the middle of working on what they call distinguished scientists. So yeah, Look, I don't exactly know what a distinguished scientist is and what they do on a day-to-day basis, but I basically know it's going to be the person that kind of, if people have technical questions about what's going on with it, this person gets the question.
Okay.
And they can kind of speak to the business, speak to investors, speak to the world about the product from a
Okay.
scientist standpoint. So we've got to do some really cool roles. I mean, fermentation engineers and all this other stuff. So it's been fun.
I know you've done a lot of like tech stuff. So in the past, just because I've known you for a few years, you know, lots of tech, lots of engineering. Like, how is this transition into biosciences?
Wow. Well, the biosciences part was hard. I've been very fortunate because, like, you know, we go back all the way back to the Aerotek days, and we worked in engineering. So, and a lot of our engineering was manufacturing. So because I cut my teeth in engineering, recruiting for manufacturing, I understood at least where these people fit into the manufacturing process.
Okay.
So I could leverage that experience into my recruiting. But outside of that, I'm going to be honest, biotech it's so much fun to learn about with the people that I, not only am I working with daily, but the people that I'm talking to, trying to recruit. Obviously, I'm not calling out any of those people because I don't want to get them in trouble, but you know, they're working with these other amazing biotech companies and just, you know, consumer packaged goods companies that have a lot of chemicals or science behind it. And you start talking to them and you hear about what these people are able to create and have in their brain to how to work. It becomes so much fun to recruit when you hear people and the way they can talk about that stuff.
I think you actually also just kind of like hit a point that I think is super important that most recruiters don't, I think, do properly, is they don't really learn and become passionate about the different teams and programs and projects that they're supporting. I think that's a huge thing.
Absolutely. I always, when I train people, and I think you and I, it's probably part of it is this Aerotech world that we come from, but I always train people. I always say, while you're recruiting for this, right, we're trained to recruit to fill this role. I said, you have to now learn how to recruit for this company. So to do that, you have to learn everything you possibly can about this company, this industry, and what this industry is trying to do. So I find myself now, like, I'll pick up these other companies that are working with mycology, which is what the MICA stands for, is for mycology short. Because most of the time when people see MICA works, they're like, that sounds like a workplace, like a workspace, not mycology.
We work.
So I start working, I start reading about those because you get excited about what these people do. And you also want to, you know, it's like talking to an engineer about recruiting a software engineer that's working in Python and you think it's a snake still, right? Like, you want to be able to at least understand what they're trying to accomplish with that program. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's so important for us as recruiters to learn what they're trying to accomplish and why behind it, which is so much fun.
Do you have any like interesting stories, either supporting MyCoWorks or something else recently, that just an interesting way how you found the candidate and got that candidate across the finish line to make that placement?
Yeah, so it actually just happened. We just got the signed offer letter, so it's so exciting for me. It's for yes, that is the biggest part, we all know, and it was for one of these distinguished scientists that we're working on. So I was working on what was called a fermentation scientist, someone that understands how to add a chemical into some sort of biological product and it ferments, right? Wineries have a lot of them. I know your ears perked up when I said wineries, which I've actually talked to so many scientists from wineries now.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So, and this person we actually found back when we first started the whole project back in August. And I talked to him, and he was a VP of fermentation for another biotech company. And I knew he was too high for this role. But, you know, sometimes you just get this gut feeling as a recruiter. You're like, I have to hold on to this person, and I don't know why. Like, I just don't know why. So I would just check in with them all the time. And then I was sitting with the chief manufacturing officer, and he described this role to me. And normally what we do is we go through this whole calibration. That's one of our key cornerstones inside of IQ Talent Partners is we send over calibration lists, roughly 10 candidates. Give me the barometer. How am I doing, kind of thing. Well, he described the role to me that he wanted, and in the back of my head, I said, this is why I needed to keep in touch with this guy. So as soon as he got done describing, I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you this candidate. because this is kind of a new role, you're not sure what to do. I just want you to talk to him. I'm going to use him as my calibration job description, actually. And so I went a little bit different. And he said, okay, I like this idea because I'm not exactly sure where I want it to go. He talked to him. It was supposed to be a half-hour conversation. Went like 45 minutes. He said, get him with the CEO. I already know he already knows he's going to talk to him. Set him up today. And I said, okay. They were supposed to talk for a half hour. He's like, I talked to him for an hour. Get him in touch with this person. And it went from this guy that I talked to at the end of August for a role I didn't have to within 2 weeks after this role, I actually never saw a written job description. They had an offer and he signed it. It was like crazy, but that to me is recruiting in like one fell swoop.
I mean, the gut feeling that you have to like utilizing like the hiring managers. I know I actually, utilize hiring managers all the time in the cleared space, just for the fact that, many times I like what you were saying that you don't know what they're doing and you sometimes can't say it. I definitely don't know sometimes what they're actually doing, and I'm not allowed to know, and I'm okay with that.
You're like, don't tell me.
Like, yes, please. I don't want that on my computer. I've already had to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah, no, we're not putting this here.
But yeah, no, that's crazy. And I think that's something that like, once you've been in the industry, like the longer you've been in the industry, the more you listen to your gut to really make some of those like crazy placements.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I pride myself as a recruiter is I have kind of switched the mindset of if you're only talking to people to fill one specific role, I think we've missed the mark as recruiters. I think as a recruiter, our job is to be like, okay, if my job is to go out and find a software engineer, a scientist, or whatever it is, I should go and find out how many great scientists, how many great engineers I can find, because I'm going to learn I'm going to learn about what they do, how they do it, become a better advocate for them and what's going on in the marketplace. But then I also become a better business consultant or business partner, if you're full-time or whatever, to my client by saying, okay, this is what you're describing to me. I've talked to this many people that have done something similar like this. Is that someone that you'd even consider, or am I down the wrong way? Because if I just say so narrow, guess what? I only found this one type of engineer. Might be only one company that can hire that one type of engineer. What am I going to do if that company doesn't want to hire anymore?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's one of those weird, I guess everybody kind of falls into their own kind of path as a recruiter with that.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So this is going to be kind of like a two-sided question, just because I know there will be newer recruiters or newer people in the industry that will be listening to this. What are some of the things that you think that has helped you become successful in the field? And also to piggyback on that, what are some of the habits that you believe helped you become successful in recruiting?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing that helped me is not being afraid to pick up the phone. And I go back to it to every day of my life is, as a recruiter, just pick up the phone. We always get so concerned about how we're using technology, and you're going to hear the words, especially new recruiters or even older recruiters have been doing it. They talk about AI and this tool and everything that's going to help you become better. I'm of the mindset that people still get people jobs. The tool is who helps you get to those people, and put those tools in their place. And that's how I've been successful. It's what I've said. I've always said my tools are just that. They're just a tool. No one is going to replace me in this relationship that I build with a candidate. I've always joked and I said, I'll ask anybody, tell me the one time that LinkedIn has actually got you a job. And they'll try to say, well, I did get a job because I found the job on LinkedIn. I said, no, that was the tool that got you the job. Who was the person that you spoke to that made you realize that this was the company that you wanted to work for? I don't trust my career with a tool. I don't. I trust it with people and who I talk to. So that would probably be the biggest thing that I've always said. And I still remember first days recruiting, when they tell you, and anybody that's ever worked at Aerotek, this, 75 calls, they give you the call log and they give you a G2 sheet and they say, go. And you're like, wait, what do I even do? And they're like, don't care, pick up the phone.
Figure it out.
Yeah. They train by not training, right? So, I still remember that, and I was terrified. And I still remember one of the people I respect greatly that's still with Allegis, Ayman Hamid. He saw one of my call sheets that was very small, and he said, not acceptable, get on the phone. And he just wrote it on my sheet, and I still remember it. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. Let's pick up the phone. And I picked it up every day as many times as I can, and that's the only way I got better.
I think I remember a few nights like leaving the office at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, trying to hit my numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it was nonstop, 75 phone calls. 75 phone calls, and you had to have 25 G2s by the end of the week or something like that. I don't even remember, but it was a lot.
And it's one of the things I think what you're talking about, picking up the phone. There's less and less recruiters doing that nowadays.
Yeah, it's strange. I think that as recruiters, we have so many amazing capabilities with the tools that are around us that we start to rely on them because we see that we're starting to get a little bit of success with them. And I always say, that's great, but the greatest thing about technology is that it's technology and it helps you do your job easier and better. It helps you work smarter. But you also have to understand, as a recruiter, your ultimate product is people. And people will never change. Human interaction will never change. It's part of the reason why I actually think, and I'm so excited, one of the good things that are coming out of COVID, I do believe, is that people are starting to understand the importance of mental health and human interaction. Well, that to me is recruiting. It's human interaction. That's how we find out if someone's going to be good for us. It's not through LinkedIn. It's not through the new what Eightfold can do or Connectify or anything like that. Those are fantastic products, but I don't believe that's how people want to get a new job.
Yeah,
I don't believe it, and I won't.
No, that's definitely true. I mean, every job that I've taken, throughout history, it's always been like, what is this mission? What are you going to be supporting? Where are you doing this? And even as a recruiting business now, like I get excited about the different businesses that I support and their missions. And, every single person I've ever hired, I've always had a phone conversation with. I can't even think of like hiring somebody with just email or something of that nature.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there going like, I couldn't imagine trying to negotiate with a human being about compensation and never picking up the phone and talking to them about it. Like I would actually get nervous thinking about a situation where that might actually happen because I'd be like, no, I couldn't do it. I want to have a conversation. I want to hear it in their voice. So yeah.
No, that's definitely, I think, great advice. And I think that's, great advice going into 2021, and pick up the freaking phone and have the conversation.
Yeah, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You find out they're not right for the job. I mean, that's the absolute worst.
That might be the best. Find out now.
Yes, thank you. Like you don't have to submit them and find out that they're going to ghost on your second interview because you never picked up the phone and built a relationship and would have learned that. I mean, it's funny. I watch it with new recruiters and I train a lot of recruiters and I mentor a lot of recruiters at IQ Talent Partners. And it's if their main role is sourcing, I work with them through that and train them through the sourcing part. But if they want to recruit, and that's one of the things they want to do, I was like, okay, well, who are you calling today? And I always get this befuddled look because we do it on a video call and they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, who are you calling? Like, quite frankly, I can program a robot, not trying to be mean, to find the people that you need to talk to. Like that's the tools that are being created right now. That's right. So I need you to be able to find them and talk to them and engage them. So yeah.
Well, one last question. It's one of my favorites. What book or have you recently dug into, or what book are you digging into that you think is really making a difference?
I am going to be the person that says I probably am the worst about reading books, to be honest. Though there's just one book that I continuously go back to that actually has helped me in so many relationships and actually helps me tremendously in recruiting and building relationships and recruiting. It sounds silly, but it's The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's
a good book.
It's amazing. It's a great book. And I mean, I can speak volumes to it about how it helps me and my wife all the time and actually our kids in understanding the love languages. But I've started to apply the principles of learning what the languages are that my people that I'm training, the people that I'm working with, my customer, my candidates, what are their language? What speaks to them? Like, that's why I always ask them, like, what's the why? Give me the why, and then behind that, and it goes back to those principles, who you are, right? So I have to be honest, that's probably the one book that I continue to go back to. I gotta read more. I'm not gonna lie, I gotta read more because I'm always reading articles though. Like I'm always reading articles about now it's the biotech space. Like I'm reading nonstop articles about the biotech space. The company that I was recruiting for before, they're called Symphony.com, and they basically do encrypted messaging. They're an encrypted messaging platform for businesses, specifically banks. So like I started finding myself reading about encryption, which is, I don't know why I was reading about encryption because I didn't understand what they were saying other than my stuff secure, which was even better.
Well, I mean, that definitely goes into like you understanding your industry. And like we said earlier, like most recruiters aren't doing that like they should.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. And so, yeah, I need to read more, though. I probably should. The more I think about it.
No, but honestly, Five Love Languages is a phenomenal book. I actually, now that you mention it, I was actually looking at it 2 days ago. Like, I need to pick this book up again. It's been a while. And this is now like you saying this is like the key, like, all right, good feeling.
You're like, prompted. Thank you. Check mark. To-do list.
Adding to Audible right now.
Which is a fantastic app. That's what I got to do is I got to get more on the Audible app, because then I just start listening to these books, because there's so many times I'm just sourcing and I could be listening to it.
It sometimes takes me if you want a good laugh, like an hour to read like 10 pages just because, squirrel,
Yeah.
a little bit of like
Recruiter life.
recruiter life. And, like Audible has been like my fix for during my runs or if I'm in the car. So it's a cool app.
I've seen where you run. I would be so distracted I couldn't listen to anything. I would just be looking at the scenery of DC the whole time. Like the pictures you post, I'm just blown away. I was like, yeah, I could run there. I could do that.
But hey, want to say thank you. Thank you for participating. And I look forward to people listening to this and people watching this, and just helping them understand the industry better, helping them get better, and helping them become successful in what we do.
Absolutely. I think this is such a huge area that needs to be focused on. I think that the recruiting industry has come so far, but I think it's going to continue to be a tipping point for recruiters as we're coming out of COVID, because I do believe the way corporate America works and functions is going to be different from here on out, and recruiters need to adjust to that.
The truest words. Well, Adam, thank you very much. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast with Benjamin Mena. If you enjoyed, hit subscribe and leave a rating.